Good morning, everyone. Happy soon-to-be fall. We've got the fall crisp weather today. My name is Julie. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm going to be helping lead us all in song and music this morning. I want to say hello to our YouTube viewers. Please also join us in song from your home or wherever you're at. Let's go ahead and please rise, whether in body or in spirit, and sing along with I'm Just Another Soldier.
Just another soldier in the army of love. I'm just another soldier in the army of love. 1, 2, 3, 4, cry sometimes as I go. I'm just another soldier in the army of love.
Now hate is my enemy, gotta fight it day and night. With which I have to fight. I believe if we all show love for our fellow man, then one day we'll hold victory in the palm of our hands.
I'm just another soldier in the army of love. I'm just another soldier in the army of love. 1, 2, 3, 4, cry sometimes as I go. I'm just another soldier in the army of love.
Other fellow soldiers once walked here by my side, but the captain called them to that command post in the sky. This army needs you, friend. This army needs me. I believe if we all get together, hatred will cease to be. I'm just
Another soldier in the army of love. I'm just another soldier in the army of love. 1, 2, 3, 4, cry sometimes as I go. I'm just another soldier in the army of love. I'm just another soldier in the army of love. I'm just another soldier in the army of love. 1, 2, 3, 4, cry sometimes as I go. I'm just another soldier in the army of love.
Please take a seat for our next song. Love Can Build a Bridge.
I'd gladly walk across the desert with no shoes upon my feet to share with you the last bite of bread I had to eat. I would swim out to save you in your sea of broken dreams. When all your hopes are sinking, let me show you what love means. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think I would whisper love so loudly every heart could understand. The love and only love can join the tribes of man. I would give my heart's desire so that you might see. The first step is to realize that it all begins with you and me. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Oh, when we stand together, oh, it's our finest hour. We can do anything, anything to keep believing in the power. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time? Oh, yes, I do. Love can build a bridge between your heart and mine. Between your heart and mine. Love can build a bridge. Don't you think it's time? Don't you think it's time?
Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, for our third song in our song block. And I want to see people singing.
This is not that song. Yeah, it's not.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me round. I'm gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land. Gonna let injustice turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let injustice turn me round. I'm gonna keep on a walking, keep on a talking, marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let discrimination turn me round, turn me round, turn me round. Ain't gonna let discrimination
WellSprings, both those here in Bell Hall and to everyone joining us online this morning. My name is Josie Waldman. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm honored to be serving as our worship leader this morning. Each week when we gather, we light a chalice as a symbol of our shared spiritual heritage as Unitarian Universalists. It is not just a symbol of what is in the past, but of what is present. That divine spark, that inner light that shines at the heart of each of our lives. As we light the chalice, may we share our light with each other and with the world. And this morning we're going to do something different from what we typically do when we light the chalice. Reverend Lee is going to actually come up and light the chalice. I invite you all to stand. We are lighting the chalice this morning in honor of and in memory of Carol Klitkaka, who passed yesterday. And this is a reminder that that spark lives on past us. Carol's spark is present in this room today. So when Reverend Lee lights the chalice, we'll say the words on the screen together. And together we say, we light our chalice to celebrate the path lit before us, the warmth of kindness that shines from within us, and the radiance of wisdom that is shared between us and never goes out. You may be seated. Good morning. Our mission here at WellSprings is to be a community charged full with the charge of the soul. And what is charging me full this morning is thoughts of Carol. Carol was one of the first people who welcomed me at WellSprings. I had come from another UU fellowship in the area, and Carol had come from that fellowship too. And so we sort of bonded. All of the effort initially was on Carol's part. She was lovely. Later, I joined the board and became treasurer, and in Carol's capacity at the time on staff, she would often count the money after the service, and so I spent some time in there counting money with her and getting to know her a little bit more. And then most recently, Carol served on our stewardship committee. Sorry, Mary. Our stewardship ministry. Carol had been essentially homebound since before the pandemic. So one of the silver linings was that WellSprings, as a result of the pandemic, became more accessible, and that was true especially for Carol. Anytime I looked online, I always saw Carol saying hi in the chat. And so although Carol was always home when she was working on stewardship ministry, she was a vital part of that team. She had a rich knowledge of our history and always had thoughtful insights. It was really a lesson for all of us in, how much we can accomplish when we're willing to make sure that everything that we do is accessible to people who maybe can't be here every Sunday. We will all miss Carol. Rest in peace, my friend. This morning, I'd like to especially welcome any newcomers. If this is your first or second time with us, we are so glad you're here. I hope you'll fill out a connection card so you can learn more about us and start to introduce yourself to. If you're watching from home, there's a link to the online connection card in the description below the video. Any of you can fill out a connection card on your phone through our WellSprings app. See our greeters, Carol and Ron, this morning, and they'll help you get connected. If you'd like to interact with folks who are joining online this morning, there is a live chat available on YouTube. To access it, you will need a YouTube or Google account. Sign in, click the live chat button, and say hello. Finally, you can always find more information about today's service, as well as upcoming events and news, through the WellSprings app, or by scanning the QR code, which is available on the welcome table just outside. We have a few pieces of news we want to highlight this weekend, and for that, I'll turn it over to our Membership and Communications Coordinator, Jessica Heichel.
Hi WellSprings, my name is Jessica Heichel with your announcements for this week, and as always, here is the QR code that you can scan at any point to be taken to today's order of service, which will have more information about each of these announcements. Up first, the small groups team is very happy to be able to offer 5 different opportunities to connect with fellow WellSpringers at a series of small group discussions. The first of which is happening a week from today at the Montgomery School right after service. If you are interested in attending any of these, please scan that QR code. Like I said, there are 5 opportunities. So there's one here, there's a few at WellSpringers homes, there's one at a park, there's one happening online. Look for a date and time that works for you, and we hope you're able to participate. These are just opportunities to kind of dive in, dig a little deeper to some themes or ideas or thoughts that came up for you during our message series that's starting today called Off the Fence. And we hope you're able to take advantage of as many of these as you can. Second announcement, there's a cool opportunity to get to know some of our neighbors through an Interfaith Action community event, and it is the Ganesha Festival happening at the Hari Om Yoga Center in Downingtown, and this is taking place on Thursday, September 21st. Some WellSpringers went last year. They said it was a great time with great food. Sounds like a lot of fun. If you're interested in attending, scan that QR code. That will take you to a page where you can RSVP to let them know that you're on the way. Thanks, everyone, and I will see you next week.
Thanks, Jessica. I apologize. When I was talking about Carol, I forgot to talk about Carol's legacy. Carol started working at WellSprings before we were even WellSprings. She was a member of the planting team and one of the first people who was hired on staff. And I think I forgot to mention that because Carol is just has always been such a part of WellSprings that I assume everyone knows that. But some of you may not have ever met Carol in person. But she was really part of the heart and soul of WellSprings, particularly as the planting team launched WellSprings. At WellSprings, the foundation of all that we do is rooted in the power of connection, of making space in our hearts and in our lives for each other. This is the part of our service where we honor that connection by greeting one another. We recognize our community's presence well beyond these walls, so feel free to take a moment now to connect and share a greeting in the live chat, or maybe say hello in WellSprings Oasis, our private group on Facebook. For those here in Bell Hall, a reminder, please ask before hugging or approaching closely. And if you prefer to keep distance from others, just stay seated, and that'll be our cue to give you a friendly wave from afar. With gratitude for all the ways we might connect, please greet one another now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for those warm greetings. If you're here in Bell Hall, you are invited to continue your conversations at coffee hour, which will take place right here in this room after service. Wow, we are a particularly rowdy group today. All right, I'll ask you to take your seats. As I said, feel free to continue your conversations at coffee hour, which will take place right here in this room after service. I invite you now into our time of generosity, an opportunity to express our gratitude for and commitment to the ways this spiritual community has an impact on all of our lives. We sustain WellSprings now and into the future through our contributions. If you'd like, you can use your phone to give from anywhere. Just text WSprings to 73256. It's also easy and convenient to automate your giving on Realm. Our greeters will be bringing hats around for those who wish to donate by hand. You can also drop a check or cash donation in the box on the welcome table just outside. Thank you for all the ways your gifts support WellSprings. Our offering will now be gratefully received. And giving beyond us, let's take some time now to reground into the deep and soulful energy that's within. We do this by doing what is most simple and elemental in our lives. We take a breath, inhaling and exhaling without rush or hurry, breathing in and breathing out. There's nowhere else to go, nowhere else to be. So let us cultivate peace and experience presence together. As we prepare for our time of mindful silence, we follow these words from Thich Nhat Hanh. If we want to enter heaven on earth, we need only one conscious step and one conscious breath. wherever it is that we are, whatever it is that we are doing, however it is that we are feeling, let us remember that peace and presence are always as close to us as is our own breath. May this be so for us this moment, may it be so for us this day, and may it be so for all of us in the days to come. And now I would like to invite the congregation's children to join our staff and volunteers in the back of the room for their time of fellowship in Youth Spirit. Youth Spirit will be meeting over here in the Gresh Center. Grown-ups, before you start your conversations during coffee hour, please remember to go over to the Gresh Center and pick up your children. And now let's join the band for our next song.
Please rise.
So good seeds, everybody. So good seeds, everybody. On the mountain, down in the valley, you're gonna reap just what you sow. Sow by walking, sow by talking, sow by everything you do. Don't mind no one, just keep on sowing. You're gonna reap just what you sow. Sow good seeds, everybody. Sow good seeds, everybody. On the mountains, down in the valley, you're gonna reap just what you sow. Sow by listening, sow by loving, sow by giving what you can. Listen for what our world is needing. You're gonna reap just what you sow. Sow good seeds, everybody. Sow good seeds, everybody. On the mountain, down in the valley, you're gonna reap just what you sow.
We all struggle, we all suffer, we all work to lead our way. Stay together and press onward. You're gonna reap just what you sow.
Sow good seeds, everybody. Sow good seeds, everybody. On the mountain, down in the valley, you're gonna reap just what you sow. Sow good seeds, everybody. Sow good seeds, everybody. On the mountain, down in the valley, you're gonna reap just what you sow.
Good morning, everybody. You know, I sat down last night to review the notes for this message that I had already written before we heard that Carol had passed. And I sat down to review my notes for the message and think about making space this morning for all of us to worship, but also to hold this loss that is still fresh for so many of us. And what came to me first was just the realization that this is the first time in our congregation's history that we have gathered for worship without Carol Klikotka in the world. And probably, as Josie mentioned, probably 95% of literally all the Sundays we've ever had services. Carol was either here with us in Bell Hall or watching us live, usually from home. Carol's death is a loss for many who loved her here and beyond these doors, and it is a loss for our community. She served on our staff from 2006 through 2019. It's a long time. It's a loss for our community, and also Carol's life was such a gift for our community. And it's a gift that is going to be paid forward every time someone new walks through these doors who's never even heard her name. That's what she has left with us. Her spirit will always be here among us. And I think if she were here, this is about the point in the service where she'd say, okay, Leah, enough about me. Some of these people came to be inspired. Let's hear a message. I think she'd be right. And you know, laughter is also a very healthy and healing way to release whatever we are holding. So I do actually want to begin our new series this morning for fall by showing you a short, very short, comedy video. It's a video that went viral earlier this year on TikTok. And now, actually, as of Thursday, I had a milestone birthday. I am officially 40 right now. Looks good on me, I hope. So if you're wondering, no, I did not actually see this video on TikTok. I resonate deeply with, there's a meme online that says, no, I'm not on TikTok. I watch TikTok videos when they get posted on Instagram 2 weeks later like a grown-up, right? That's me. But this comedy video has been shared and circulated many, many times since it was first posted last November. And I think you'll see why it has touched a nerve for people here in the year 2023. So Bennett in our tech booth is going to play it now.
People don't want to talk about politics. They're like, NATO, why do you got to talk about politics? What do politics have to do with me? I'm not an immigrant or a black person or a Muslim or a Jew or a gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender or a woman or an old person or a young person or a student or a union member or artist or journalist or scientist or public employee. I don't breathe the air or drink the water. I don't live in a coastal region that'll be affected by sea level rise or an arid region that'll be affected by drought or fire. I don't like chocolate, wine, or coffee or other commodities that will no longer be available due to climate change. I'm not mentally ill, pregnant, disabled, or currently being shot at, so what do politics have to do with me? People don't want to talk about politics.
What do politics have to do with me? Yes, indeed. So, look, if you're already nervous, I want to reassure you that this message series for fall, Off the Fence, isn't really about politics. At least not any more than anything else that we have preached here in this room. But it is, as that comedian Nato Green so skillfully points out, about human life on Earth. Politics has a lot of different definitions. And there is a strict definition that's the one that you might think of most readily, that you might hear most often, that it's about individuals and parties and interest groups competing for power and positions of leadership. There's that definition kind of over here, right? But there's also politics in the sense that it was used by feminists, in fact, in the 1960s and 70s. This idea that the personal is political, that everything in our lives is somehow related to power, to those relationships between us in the systems we create, the agreements we make with each other. And this other definition of politics that is also found in the dictionary says that politics are the total complex of relations between people living in a society. Now, in this country, communities like ours, congregations, churches, synagogues, temples, mosques, we don't get involved in the first kind of politics. Legally, we are not allowed to, and we don't. But we can, and some people argue we should, get involved in that second kind. That second kind of politics, about making agreements between people so that we can live together safely and thrive in a community. That's what Nato Green was talking about in that video, right? About drinking the water and breathing the air and making sure this earth, this place, is as safe as possible for all of us to live our lives, no matter who we are or what our circumstances might look like. So we are going to talk about that this fall. We're going to dig into what it is that we stand for as a spiritual community and what kind of world we hope to see, rooted for us not in that first kind of politics, but in our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of every person, rooted in our faith that all human beings are worthy of love. Now, I have a big pet peeve about our denomination, Unitarian Universalism. I was considering asking you all to guess what it is, but then I realized that if you called out annoying things about Unitarian Universalism, that would require me to either confirm or deny whether I agree with you, and I don't want that on YouTube, so I will just tell you what my pet peeve is. It's probably my least favorite habit of some Unitarian Universalists. It's when people describe our religion as one where you can believe anything you want, right? I get the positive intention behind that. It's inclusive, it's open, right? That's true. But the idea that you can believe anything you want, no thank you. That is a trap that any group that is committed to those good values of tolerance and inclusion and openness can fall into. We do offer freedom of belief here in the sense that we have tremendous flexibility in how we express our spirituality, our spiritual beliefs. Different scriptures are welcome here, different spiritual practices, different words for God or no word for God at all. All of that is welcome. But we do honor a specific set of values at our core, namely that beloved worth that we always talk about, that each person carries, and how we are then called to treat each other as a result. The core of our beliefs are clear, but that fuzziness around the edges, well, that sometimes gets misinterpreted. It can be misinterpreted as us being a little wishy-washy. It can get misinterpreted as any restriction from ever drawing any lines in any sand at any time, right? Misinterpreted as never, ever choosing a side, even saying choosing a side from UU pulpit. I feel like I'm going to be struck by lightning, right? It's difficult sometimes to remember the difference. Our faith does call us to be open and welcoming to all people because all people are, yes, worthy of finding a place to call home, a community where they are cared for. All people, yes, not all actions, not all behaviors, not all choices, and not all values. Knowing who and what we are for, knowing that clearly, can actually be a much more rich and beautiful place to be. When we know who and what we are for, we don't have to try to be all things to all people. Instead, we are free to be us. Each of you is free to be you. And from that place of knowing that, we can learn how to work together. We can learn about and show up for each other, even though we might be very different around the edges. But when we have something fundamental in common, our core values here, those values can draw us into and keep us in this community. I think we practice something pretty extraordinary, honestly, in UU congregations. And I think it is a skill that increasingly our world needs as well. Because the conflict levels in many spaces, in our lives, in this country, the conflict levels are dangerously high. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen examples of this probably in your own lives. And any place where we practice humility and compassion, any place where we practice working through our challenges together without resorting to cruelty or abuse or dehumanizing people or treating others like they are nothing, but instead working with that tension that even when we have difficulties, we remember that everybody is something. Everybody is beloved. Practicing that in this place, that makes this, I think, a good and worthy place to be these days. The other alternative, the one that many people choose, if we're not engaging in that tough work of building community, and we're not engaging in that cruel, destructive form of conflict either, well, the only other alternative generally is to retreat, right? To talk ourselves into, to work ourselves into a place where we think we can say, what do politics have to do with me? Retreating from that conversation ultimately pulls us away from each other. It makes us much more likely, it makes it much more likely that the only people we'll know will be people who've retreated to the same place as us. People who found the exact same escape route and are hiding away within the same set of identities and privileges and circumstances as us. Some of you may have heard about the recent U.S. Surgeon General report on loneliness. 82 pages in this report released by Dr. Vivek Murthy, our Surgeon General, earlier this year. It calls loneliness and isolation a public health crisis. Our disconnection from each other contributes to poor mental health outcomes, to rising rates of substance use and early death. And the report makes good suggestions, but also, honestly, it makes the same kind of suggestions that always seem to be made in reports like this, that are starting to feel to me like more screaming into the void. It says to spend less time on social media, or to at least use it to connect instead of compare. It says to join community organizations, neighborhoods, civic groups, be more involved with your local house of worship. I love these recommendations. I'm killing it on that last one, right? So are you. But I'm frustrated, not by the recommendations themselves, but by all of the forces in this world that make those things hard to do. The way all of our time and money can get soaked up just trying to get by. The way we feel we don't have time or space for more connection. The way we are sold, literally sold, the lie that we don't really need each other. Who needs to know our neighbors to borrow a cup of sugar if we can Amazon Prime it? Seriously, right? Why join a local neighborhood group or congregation if it means you have to put up with all the people there who annoy you? We're human. We're going to rub each other the wrong way sometimes. When we have an alternative, we can see all our favorite people online and close the app as soon as we get frustrated with them. People who like all the same things as us, even read the same news. And it's near impossible to try and make this world a better place when we feel so busy and overwhelmed. How about we just elect a leader instead who will make all those other people go away? The ones we don't like, the ones who make us uncomfortable. It probably seems a little extreme to even be using words like fascism in a country like ours. But the reason people are using that word is because these are the kinds of ways that it can start. The divisions between us and the isolation that's growing, I think we feel deeply that it frightens us because we know it can escalate in communities. I honestly believe is so important. It's not the whole picture of how we will get out of this divided, isolated mess that we are in, but it is a big part of it. The skills that we build here, the ways of living with each other that we get used to, that we get good at. When we remember and actually live each day knowing who and what we are for. A few years ago, early in the pandemic, actually, when we were all still at home and connecting online, Our former minister, our founding minister, Reverend Ken, and I together did an online Ask Me Anything about Unitarian Universalism on Zoom. It was fun. I should do it again. Maybe, Nick, you and I could do that sometime. Ask us anything about Unitarian Universalism. It's a good quiz for a minister in training, actually. And one of my favorite questions came from Deneen, who some of you remember. She's since moved away to Tennessee. But she asked me what my favorite thing was about being a Unitarian Universalist. I'd never been asked that question in quite that way before. And as I thought about it, I realized that what we're talking about here, is my favorite thing about Unitarian Universalism. How it has pushed me to grow. Being a part of this faith has put me in situations where I've met people that I likely would never have met in my life otherwise. Our faith has introduced me to people I have very little in common with in terms of life experience, and has asked me to give a damn about them, to learn about and come to understand and love people who are not like me, to show up for them and put something of my own heart and time and life on the line for people who are different or who face different challenges than I do. Because they are just as beloved as I am. And I can tell you that that call of our faith has changed me in ways that are 100% unilaterally good. Pet peeves aside, that part is 100% good. That Surgeon General's report was the subject of an op-ed in the New York Times last week by Nicholas Kristof. And he said something about that report that I've never quite been able to articulate as well as he did. I will read you a short quote from his op-ed. He said, "One of the paradoxes of humanity is that while we evolved to be social creatures, wealth drives us towards solitude. When we have the resources, we stop sleeping 8 to a hut. We build a big house with high walls, bless you, and each family member has a private bedroom and bathroom. And then to afford the mortgage, we work so hard that we never manage to have meals together. Wealth drives us towards solitude. In a prosperous society like ours, where wealth is so stratified, so unevenly distributed, this is also part of the danger we face. Because wealth does certainly make it easier to retreat. This line of Nicholas Kristof's also struck me because it sounded a lot to me like something else I've heard from the teachings of the Christian New Testament. A teaching that is repeated and referenced often, even by people outside of Christianity. A teaching where Jesus says to his followers, "Truly I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." A very reliably annoying passage from the New Testament. Truly, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Now, this text doesn't say it is impossible for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God, right? He says it's hard, not impossible. Jesus actually clears that up right in the next line because his followers also go, "Wait, are you saying it's impossible?" No. He's saying it gets harder. He implies that there is a driving force there, that the forces of wealth might push on you away from heaven, pushing on us away from the kind of beloved community where we live together in cooperation and peace, away from the beautiful life-saving forms of connection that are possible, towards something that looks a lot more like life behind our own walls, where we only have ourselves to depend on. We might think that we are safe behind those walls, but getting off of the fence, speaking up for what matters to us, showing up for who matters to us, it literally helps us build a different kind of safety. Not a defensive safety that pulls us away from each other, but a proactive, creative kind of safety that forms as we build up trust in each other. And I will close actually by reminding us that we saw a perfect example of this over this month. Do you remember this? This was last Sunday, by the way. It has been a week. Anybody else had a long week? Remember this whole situation? You know, last Sunday morning, we had to call our local police, the non-emergency line, to find out whether it was okay to even hold our Sunday service here, because a convicted murderer had escaped from the Chester County Prison and had last, at that point, been seen in Phoenixville just down the road. We all probably know the name Danilo Cavalcante now. And we know how fences could not hold him in. Now, we live in an imperfect world, a world that is still broken and hurting, and the walls and the fences and the barbed wire and the security cameras, sometimes we need them just to reduce the harm. But all of this that happened over these past few weeks was a powerful reminder that the most powerful thing we really have is still each other. In every sense of this situation, the most powerful thing is the human spirit. Human beings can get out of a lot of things and survive a lot of things, and all the barbed wire in the world gives no guarantee of true safety, as we saw. What does bring safety is what we saw happen in our communities here in Chester County. How many thousands of people shifted their focus over the past 2 weeks towards keeping each other safe? Neighbors looking out for each other. Hundreds of officers working around the clock to protect a family and a community. The way schools adjusted, making tough decisions to keep kids safe. The way our congregation here, through our Heartworks team, found and donated to the family of Cavalcante's victims. To Deborah Brandau's sister, Sarah, who was raising her 2 young children. And it was because of our connections in the community to local nonprofits here that we, as a congregation, were able to send them some support. It's that community that we build 364 days of the year that helps us show up on the one day that it's needed most. And it's things like this. God love them, it's the Wawa employees at the corner of 401 and Route 100 down the road making hundreds of hoagies to give out to first responders. Thousands of people shifted their focus over the past 2 weeks to keeping each other safe. We do need each other. I can guarantee that. And in the end, what does bring us true safety is connection. So may we remember today and every day forward, as things are and likely will continue to be difficult around us for all different reasons, that getting off the fence is not just a burden. Yes, it may require action and time. It may require vulnerability and courage. But the reward is community. The reward is the peace and the comfort we find in being able to show up for each other and rely on each other, and in knowing who and what we are here for. Amen. And may you all live in blessing. I'll invite the band back up now for our last song. I'll invite all of you to join me in the spirit of prayer. God of our heart's own language, giver of the time that we have on earth that is so precious. May we take a moment this morning to remember just how precious that time is for each of us. Taking a moment this morning to remember that that gift of life that we have gratitude for, we can also expand that gratitude and be grateful for every other human that we know and meet and can trust and can love while we're here. For these prayers that I've spoken out loud and for the prayers that all of us are carrying on our hearts, we say amen.
Please rise, whether in body or in spirit, for our final song today.
Don't worry, mother, it'll be all right. Don't worry, sister, say your prayers and sleep tight. It'll be fine, lover of mine. It'll be just fine. And lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Fill your lives with love and bravery, and we shall lead a life uncommon. I've heard your anguish, I've heard your hearts cry out. We are tired, we are weary, but we aren't worn out. Set down your chains till only faith remains. Set down your chains and lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. We love with love and bravery, and we shall lead a life uncommon. There are plenty of people that pray for peace, but if praying were enough, it would have come to be. Let your words enslave no one, and the heavens will hush themselves to hear our voices ring out clear with sounds of freedom. Sounds of freedom. Come on, you unbelievers, move out of the way, 'cause there is a new army coming, and we are armed with faith. And to live, we must give. To live. And lend your voices only to sounds of freedom. No longer lend your strength to that which you wish to be free from. Be loved with love and bravery, and we shall lead. And lend your voices
This light goes out at the end of our service, but the spark that sparks it as we gather is always here somewhere. As together we say, we release this flame from its faithful service today. We allow the spark in each of us to burn on, to warm our compassion, to light our delight, to light our paths today, tomorrow, and always. Friends, I am so grateful for all of you, and I hope that you'll start thinking about what politics might have to do with you. Share that video, maybe start some conversations. Let's put our hands together one more time. Guys, take us out.